When the judge refused to let a veteran say his final goodbye to the dog who saved his life, the public was outraged. But they didn't expect that the silent witness in the courtroom was Caroline Leavitt, White House press secretary. And she wasn't just there to observe. She was there to expose an entire empire of corruption behind the cruel ruling. The fight for a dog became a hunt for justice that shook the nation. Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the latest stories. The courtroom was steeped in suffocating silence, the dim fluorescent light casting shadows on the packed rows of seats. All eyes were on Ethan Brooks, a former Army sergeant, seated in a wheelchair, his old military uniform glinting with medals. His hand tightly gripped the leash of Blitz, the German shepherd beside him, whose sharp eyes scanned the room like a battlefield sentry. To Ethan, Blitz wasn't just a military dog. He was the friend who gave him a reason to keep living through his darkest days. Judge William Caldwell, presiding imperiously from the bench, looked down with eyes cold as stone. "Brooks," he declared, his voice stiff and dripping with bureaucratic arrogance, "the military has made its ruling. The dog is government property and will be reassigned. This is your final chance to speak." His words were icy, devoid of emotion, as if Blitz's fate was just another entry in a ledger. Ethan took a deep breath, his voice trembling. "Sir, Blitz saved me from an explosion in Afghanistan. When I lost everything, he was there. Please don't take him." The crowd murmured, some wiping tears, but Caldwell only smirked, his gavel poised to strike. Suddenly, Blitz bolted upright, yanking the leash from Ethan's hand, barking ferociously toward the dark hallway. The barks echoed, sharp as an alarm, making the courtroom hold its breath. Chairs scraped, some stood in panic. "Blitz," Ethan called, his voice breaking, but he recognized the signal. On the battlefield, Blitz only barked like that when detecting a bomb or enemy. "Your Honor, he senses danger," Ethan shouted, gripping his wheelchair. Caldwell frowned, his voice calm but tinged with tension. "Control that animal now, or I'll order its removal," he commanded, his eyes darting to the hallway as if hiding a secret. Tension erupted as whispers spread. Ethan's case had ignited X, thanks to a post by his sister Clara, garnering millions of views and outraged comments. The hashtag #SaveBlitz flooded social media, turning Ethan into a symbol of a wronged veteran. In a brightly lit White House office, Caroline Leavitt sat before a screen, her sharp eyes scanning dozens of alerts. Her platinum hair gleamed under the lights, but her tense expression reflected the brewing media storm. As White House press secretary, Leavitt was known for her dedication and crisis management, but the case of Ethan Brooks and his dog Blitz had become a powder keg. Clara's post on X had spread like wildfire, with #SaveBlitz dominating social media. Millions were furious that the military sought to seize Blitz, the friend who saved Ethan from death on the battlefield and brought light to his darkest days. The public called it a betrayal of a veteran, and the maul was pointed at the administration. The door opened, and James Thornton, a senior presidential advisor, stepped in, placing a file on the desk. "Caroline, the president wants you to handle this," he said, his voice low but urgent. "The Ethan Brooks case, the public thinks we're abandoning veterans. Go to New Hampshire, oversee the trial, report directly, and ensure justice is served." Leavitt nodded, flipping through the file quickly. She understood the president didn't just want to quell the controversy but turn it into a media victory, reinforcing the commitment to veterans, a cornerstone of the America First message. But as she read, one detail stopped her. Judge William Caldwell's financial records showed mysterious transfers from Blackthorn Dynamics, a notorious defense contractor. Leavitt frowned. Caldwell, with his cold bureaucratic tone described on X, didn't seem like a judge easily bribed. He called Blitz government property, dismissing Ethan's pleas with haughty arrogance, as if the trial was a mere formality. But the money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, couldn't be coincidence. Leavitt's instincts screamed, this trial wasn't just about a dog. It hid a larger conspiracy, and she, as press secretary, had a duty to uncover it to protect the president's credibility and justice for Ethan. She'd seen the power of public outrage on X, and she'd used that fury as leverage. She picked up the phone, calling Rachel Harper, an independent journalist who'd investigated Blackthorn Dynamics. "Rachel, I need everything you have on this company, Leavitt said firmly. They're tied to Ethan Brooks' trial, and I suspect Caldwell's covering something up. Harper, on the other end, lowered her voice. Caroline, Blackthorn isn't just a defense contractor. They have secret projects with the military. Biotech, involving military dogs. I'll send files, but be careful. Leavitt hung up, her eyes flashing with resolve. If Caldwell was taking bribes and Blackthorn was behind Blitz's seizure, she'd dig to the root of it. Before leaving her office, Leavitt checked her email. A file from Harper had arrived, mentioning Project Sentinel, a secret military program involving dogs like Blitz. Her heart raced. Blitz wasn't just Ethan's friend. He could be the key to a larger conspiracy. She stood, grabbed her coat, and prepared to head to New Hampshire. The upcoming trial wouldn't just be a fight for Blitz. It would be a battle to expose those behind Caldwell, and Leavitt was determined to make them pay. The courtroom still buzzed from Blitz's warning barks, the German shepherd standing rigid beside Ethan Brooks, his fur bristling as if ready for battle. The crowd, from reporters to locals, whispered excitedly, phones raised to live stream with #SaveBlitz. Ethan, in his wheelchair, placed a hand on Blitz's neck, feeling the dog's strong pulse, his eyes locked on the dark hallway where Blitz had sensed a threat. Judge William Caldwell, perched on the bench, gripped his gavel with white knuckles, his face tense but eyes cold, exuding bureaucratic arrogance. Mr. Brooks, continue your statement, Caldwell ordered, his voice sharp as a blade, trying to force the trial back on track. This court will not tolerate disruptions. But his tone betrayed a hint of haste, as if eager to wrap things up. Ethan, clutching the leash, sat as tall as he could in his wheelchair. Blitz isn't property, sir, he said, his voice trembling but resolute. He's a hero who pulled me from gunfire in Afghanistan, gave me a reason to live. I won't let anyone take him. His words struck the crowd, some clapping, reporters scribbling furiously. A woman shouted, #SaveBlitz, justice for veterans. But before Caldwell could respond, a figure emerged from the hallway, heavy footsteps echoing on the wooden floor. A tall man in a black coat, his face obscured by a hood, moved with chilling confidence, silencing the entire courtroom. Security flinched, hands reaching for their guns, but the stranger raised a hand, his deep voice cutting through. Relax, he said, his gaze sweeping the crowd, lingering on Blitz. I'm here for the dog. It doesn't belong to you, Brooks. Ethan felt his blood boil, his hand shaking as he gripped the leash. Who are you to say that? He roared, voice thick with fury. The crowd erupted, jeers drowning out Caldwell's gavel. Order in the court, Caldwell shouted, his authoritative tone tinged with panic, his eyes flicking to the stranger with a mix of irritation and fear. Identify yourself, or the court will consider coercive measures, he declared, but his firmness seemed a facade, as if he knew who this man represented. The man pulled back his hood, revealing an angular face and eyes cold as ice. Marcus Kane, Blackthorn Dynamics, he said, his voice calm but laced with menace. That dog is company property, worth $10 million, trained for a project beyond your comprehension, Brooks. Kane's words were a spark, igniting the crowd's outrage. Liar! A reporter shouted, cameras zooming in on Kane. Ethan's mind reeled. $10 million. He recalled a mission in Afghanistan when Blitz uncovered $1 billion biochemical weapons cache guarded by private contractors. Blackthorn Dynamics, with its $15 billion annual defense contracts. Was it behind this? Was Blitz the key to controlling the global biochemical weapons market? Blitz's family, not property. Ethan shouted, his voice echoing through the room, overpowering Caldwell's gavel. Blitz, sensing Ethan's resolve, growled low, eyes locked on Kane. Caldwell, pale, tried to regain control. Silence, he ordered, his bureaucratic tone icy. This court will not tolerate baseless disruptions. Security, remove this man. But Caldwell's glance at Kane, a quick, almost imperceptible look, caught Ethan's eye. That connection sent a chill through him. Security surrounded Kane, but he didn't resist. You're digging your own grave, Brooks, Kane said, his voice cold as metal, eyes fixed on Blitz. That dog holds secrets worth an empire. You'll regret this. He turned, vanishing into the hallway, leaving the courtroom in chaos. Reporters scrambled to record, the crowd screamed, and #SaveBlitz surged on X, with over 3 million shares in hours. Ethan hugged Blitz tightly, whispering, "No one's splitting us up, buddy," but he knew Blackthorne and Kane wouldn't stop, and the secret Blitz held might be more dangerous than he imagined. The courtroom remained tense after Marcus Kane's appearance, representing Blackthorne Dynamics. Ethan Brooks, in his wheelchair, stroked Blitz's head, feeling the German shepherd's warm breath. He looked up at the bench, where William Caldwell struggled to regain control, his face strained but eyes still cold, exuding bureaucratic arrogance. "The court will proceed," Caldwell declared, his voice sharp as a blade, gavel slamming down. "Mr. Brooks, your final reason, or I'll issue a ruling." But his firmness seemed to mask an unseen fear, as if Kane had left a crack in his perfect veneer. Ethan took a deep breath, ready to respond, but the courtroom door swung open, cutting through his thoughts. A woman stepped in, her platinum hair gleaming under the fluorescent lights, her confident stride drawing every eye. Caroline Leavitt, White House press secretary, stood in the aisle, holding a thick file, her gaze sharp as a blade. The crowd held its breath, reporters' cameras swinging to her. "Judge Caldwell," Leavitt said, her voice clear and commanding. "I'm Caroline Leavitt, representing the White House, here to oversee this case on the president's orders. I request an immediate suspension of the ruling." Her words hit like lightning, sparking a wave of whispers. Caldwell, pale, gripped his gavel, his eyes flashing panic, before masking it with arrogance. "This is a courtroom, Miss Leavitt," he replied, his bureaucratic tone cold. "The court reminds you the executive branch has no authority to interfere with judicial proceedings. Without valid cause, you'll be asked to leave." But his voice trembled slightly, as if sensing the threat of Leavitt's presence. She gave a faint smile, stepping closer to the bench, raising the file. "My cause is here," she said, her voice steely. "Evidence shows you received bribes from Blackthorne Dynamics, $1.2 million over 3 years, to ensure Blitz is handed to them. This isn't a trial for justice, sir, but a charade to cover corruption." The crowd exploded, shouts drowning out Caldwell's gavel. "Lies," he roared, face flushed, pounding the gavel. "These accusations are baseless. You have no right to slander in my court." But his usual arrogance began to crumble, his eyes darting, searching the crowd for an escape. Leavitt stood firm, opening the file, reading aloud an internal Blackthorne email. "Transfer $500,000 to Caldwell's offshore account to ensure Project Sentinel remains secure. Blitz must be retrieved at all costs." She looked up, locking eyes with Caldwell. "Project Sentinel, a $2 billion program, uses biotech to train dogs like Blitz to detect biochemical weapons. Blitz isn't just a dog. He's the key to a weapons empire, and you're selling justice to protect it." Ethan's heart pounded. He looked at Blitz, recalling the biochemical weapons cache Blitz uncovered in Afghanistan. Could a biotech chip in Blitz hold data about that cache? He turned to Leavitt, eyes full of hope. The crowd roared support, X live streams exploding with comments. #SaveBlitz. Expose Caldwell. A reporter shouted, "Leavitt's a hero." Caldwell, now trembling, tried to regain control. "You're undermining legal order," he yelled, his bureaucratic tone faltering, eyes darting like a cornered animal. "Security, remove her." But security hesitated, their gazes shifting between Leavitt and the seething crowd. Leavitt stepped closer to Ethan, placing a hand on his shoulder, her voice low but warm. "Mr. Brooks, I saw Clara's post on X. Millions stand with you and Blitz. I'm here to ensure justice, not just for you but for every veteran." Ethan nodded, tears falling silently. "Thank you," he whispered, stroking Blitz. Leavitt turned, facing Caldwell. "I demand a federal investigation into you and Blackthorne," she declared, her voice ringing through the room. "The president has been informed, and you can't hide forever." The crowd erupted in applause, cameras capturing every second. Caldwell, face ashen, ordered a recess. "Court adjourned," he declared, voice shaking, eyes avoiding Leavitt. He fled the bench, steps unsteady, leaving the courtroom in cheers. Reporters swarmed Leavitt, but she only looked at Ethan and Blitz, smiling. "We're not done, Mr. Brooks," she said. "Blackthorn won't give up, but neither will I." Ethan hugged Blitz tightly, feeling the dog's breath, his heart swelling with hope. Caroline Leavitt stood in a small New Hampshire hotel, dim lamplight illuminating a thick file. The trial was on hold after her bombshell accusations against Judge William Caldwell, but she knew time was against her. The #SaveBlitz post on X, started by Clara, Ethan Brooks's sister, had reached over 5 million shares, turning the case into a national symbol of veteran justice. But Blackthorn Dynamics, with its $15 billion defense contracts, wouldn't go down easily. Leavitt reviewed the internal email she'd revealed in court, $1.2 million in bribes, to Caldwell to ensure Blitz, the $10 million dog, was handed to Blackthorn. Project Sentinel, a $2 billion program, was the heart of the conspiracy, and Leavitt was determined to expose it. She picked up the phone, calling Rachel Harper, the independent journalist, who had provided Blackthorn documents. "Rachel, I need more on Project Sentinel," Leavitt said firmly. "Caldwell's rattled, but Blackthorn won't sit still." Harper, on the other end, lowered her voice. "Caroline, I've contacted a new source, John Kessler, former Blackthorn engineer. He knows about Blitz's biotech chip. Meet me at the cafe on Main Street in an hour." Leavitt nodded, adrenaline surging. She knew she was poking a hornet's nest, but the president's administration's credibility and justice for Ethan depended on her. At the cafe, warm light contrasted with the tense atmosphere. Harper sat beside John Kessler, a middle-aged man with anxious eyes, clutching a coffee mug. "I left Blackthorn after they crossed lines," Kessler began, voice trembling slightly. "Project Sentinel isn't just dog training. They implant biotech chips in dogs like Blitz, enabling 99.8% accurate detection of biochemical weapons. Blitz's chip holds encrypted data on a $4 billion Middle East biochemical weapons cache. Blackthorn sold to international clients. They want Blitz to erase that data, covering their tracks." Leavitt frowned, scribbling notes. "Why's Caldwell involved?" she asked. Kessler glanced around, whispering, "Caldwell took bribes to ensure Blitz's retrieval before the data leaks. He has an offshore account in the Caymans, with over $1.5 million from Blackthorn." Leavitt's heart raced. Caldwell, with his arrogant bureaucratic tone in court, wasn't just selling justice, he was a cog in a biochemical weapons trafficking network. She turned to Harper. "We need hard evidence, documents, transactions, anything to expose Caldwell and Blackthorn." Harper nodded, pulling out a USB. "These are bank transaction copies from my source. But Caroline, Blackthorn knows you're digging. They've hired Marcus Kane, a mercenary, to stop you." Leavitt pursed her lips, recalling Kane's threat in court. She wasn't scared, but she knew she had to move fast. Meanwhile, at a small suburban house, Ethan sat beside Blitz, the TV's glow illuminating his worried face. Clara, his sister, checked X, where #SaveBlitz still dominated with thousands of supportive comments. "Leavitt's shaking things up, Ethan," Clara said, voice optimistic. "She called Caldwell corrupt in court." Ethan nodded, stroking Blitz's ear. "But Blackthorn won't stop," he whispered, recalling Kane's cold stare. He told Clara about the Afghanistan mission when Blitz uncovered a biochemical weapons cache. "Blitz knows something they're scared will get out," he said, eyes filled with resolve. Clara squeezed his hand. "We'll fight, Ethan. Millions on X are behind you." At the same time, Leavitt left the cafe, the sky pitch black. Driving to her hotel, her eyes flicked to the rear-view mirror, spotting a black SUV tailing her. Her heart pounded, but she stayed calm, speeding through New Hampshire's narrow streets. The SUV closed in, headlights blinding. Suddenly, a bullet shattered the rear window. Leavitt ducked, flooring the gas, swerving into an alley. The SUV pursued, but she yanked the wheel, cutting through a parking lot, losing her tail. Breathing heavily, she stopped behind a warehouse, checking her phone, a text from Harper. "Kane hired by Blackthorn. Be careful." Leavitt clenched her fist, knowing Blackthorn was desperate. She called James Thornton, White House advisor. "James, I have evidence of Caldwell's offshore accounts and Blitz's chip data," she said urgently. "Blackthorn's hunting me." I need security, and an emergency meeting with the president. Thornton agreed, promising a security team to New Hampshire. Leavitt stared into the darkness, feeling the threat tightening. Blackthorn didn't just want Blitz. They wanted to silence anyone who knew about Project Sentinel. She thought of Ethan and Blitz, the image of the dog beside the veteran, making her smile faintly. They picked the wrong fight, she whispered, starting the car, determined to bring the truth to light. At Ethan's house, a knock at the door made Blitz spring up, growling low. Ethan grabbed a nearby cane, heart pounding. Clara opened the door, finding an unmarked envelope. Inside was a note, hand over Blitz, or you both die. Ethan gripped the paper, looking at Blitz. Never, he whispered, hugging the dog. He called Leavitt's contact number, leaving a message. Miss Leavitt, they're threatening me. We need you. Across New Hampshire, Leavitt received the message, her eyes flashing with resolve. Darkness enveloped the small suburban New Hampshire house, the TV's faint glow illuminating Ethan Brooks's anxious face. Blitz, the German shepherd, lay curled beside him, sharp eyes glinting in the dark. Ethan clutched the threatening note received that night. Clara, his sister, sat across, scrolling X on her phone, where #SaveBlitz had surpassed 6 million shares. Leavitt's got Blackthorn rattled, Clara said, trying to sound upbeat. She accused Caldwell of taking $1.5 million in bribes in court. Ethan, we have hope. But Ethan only looked at Blitz, recalling Marcus Kane's words. That dog knows too much. He knew Blackthorn Dynamics, with its $15 billion defense contracts, wouldn't stop to protect a $4 billion secret from a biochemical weapons cache. A faint noise sounded on the porch, making Blitz leap up, ears erect, growling deep in his throat. Ethan grabbed the wooden cane nearby, heart racing. Clara, kill the lights, he whispered, wheeling to a corner. Clara complied, plunging the house into darkness. Through the window, 3 men's shadows passed, weapons glinting under moonlight. Ethan recognized Marcus Kane leading, his cold eyes seared into memory from the trial. They're here for Blitz, Ethan whispered, gripping the leash. Clara, trembling, texted Leavitt's number. Our house is under attack. Help! The front door burst open, Kane stepping in, 2 henchmen behind, silenced guns raised. Brooks, hand over the dog, Kane ordered, his voice low but sharp as a blade. Blackthorn paid $10 million for Blitz, but the data in its chip is worth an empire. Ethan's blood boiled, recalling the biochemical weapons cache Blitz found in Afghanistan. That chip, per John Kessler, held encrypted data on a $4 billion arsenal, enough to destroy Blackthorn's trafficking network. Blitz isn't going anywhere, Ethan roared, releasing the leash. Blitz shot forward like an arrow, teeth bared, aiming for the nearest henchman. A gunshot rang out, but Blitz was faster, sinking teeth into the gunman's arm, making him scream in pain. Ethan, summoning strength from his military days, swung the cane, cracking the second henchman's knee, dropping him. Kane, unfazed, drew a knife, steel flashing. You're a fool, Brooks, he said, advancing on Blitz. But Clara, from the corner, hurled a table lamp, hitting Kane's shoulder, making him stumble. Blitz seized the moment, leaping, pinning Kane to the floor, teeth inches from his throat. Call them off. Ethan shouted, Kane raised, ready to strike again. Kane, restrained by Blitz, signaled his men to retreat. Police sirens wailed in the distance, red and blue lights flashing through the window. Neighbors, hearing the commotion, had called the cops. Kane, panting under Blitz's teeth, hissed, this isn't over. Blackthorn will take what's theirs. He broke free, bolting out the back door with his henchmen, vanishing into the night, before the police arrived. Ethan hugged Blitz tightly, whispering, you're amazing, buddy. Clara, trembling, checked X, seeing thousands of new comments. #SaveBlitz, protect Ethan. She broke into tears, grabbing Ethan's hand. We did it, but they'll be back. At the same time, in her hotel, Caroline Leavitt received Clara's message, her heart tightening. She called James Thornton, White House advisor. James, Ethan's house was attacked, she said urgently. Blackthorn's getting reckless. I have evidence from Kessler. Blitz's chip holds data on a $4 billion biochemical weapons cache. We need to protect Ethan and fast-track the Caldwell investigation. Thornton promised security for Ethan's house and an emergency meeting with the president. Leavitt opened her laptop, checking the USB from Rachel Harper, containing bank transactions linking Caldwell to Blackthorn. Another offshore account, worth $2 million, surfaced under a Blackthorn executive's name, clarifying the corruption network. Leavitt thought of Caldwell with his arrogant tone in court, calling Blitz property to mask his bribes. She knew he was just a pawn in Blackthorn's chess game, with Kane as the enforcer. She texted Harper, "Find more on Blackthorn's executive. We're close." But an anonymous message hit her phone, "Stop digging, or you'll end up like Brooks." Leavitt clenched her fist, eyes blazing. Blackthorn could threaten, but she'd faced bigger media storms. She'd protect Ethan, Blitz, and expose their empire. At Ethan's house, police documented the incident, but found no trace of Kane. Ethan, still holding Blitz, looked at Clara. "Leavitt's our only shot," he said, voice low. "If she takes down Blackthorn, Blitz is safe." Clara nodded, posting on X. "Our house was attacked, but Ethan and Blitz stand strong. Thank you, Leavitt. #save Blitz." The post spread instantly, piling pressure on Blackthorn. Ethan stroked Blitz, feeling the dog's strength. The courtroom buzzed like a furnace. National news cameras crowded in, live streaming on X, pushing #save Blitz past 8 million shares, making the trial the nation's biggest media event. Ethan Brooks sat in his wheelchair, gripping Blitz's leash, the German shepherd lying calmly beside him, sharp eyes scanning the room. After the home attack, Ethan had no illusions about Blackthorn dynamics. With $15 billion in defense contracts, they'd do anything to get Blitz. The $10 million dog carrying a chip with data on a $4 billion biochemical weapons cache. Clara, Ethan's sister, sat beside him, checking X, where thousands of comments demanded justice. Expose Blackthorn. #save Blitz. Judge William Caldwell took the bench, face rigid, eyes cold with bureaucratic arrogance. But his hands trembled slightly, holding the gavel, a sign of unease after Leavitt's $1.5 million bribery accusation. "Court is back in session," Caldwell declared, voice sharp but lacking its usual confidence. "Mr. Brooks, your final argument." Ethan took a deep breath, ready to speak, but the courtroom door swung open, cutting through the tense air. Caroline Leavitt strode in, platinum hair gleaming, holding a thicker briefcase than before. The crowd held its breath, cameras tracking her every step. "Judge Caldwell," Leavitt said, voice clear and commanding, "I request a suspension of the ruling and transfer of this case to a federal investigation." Her words detonated like a bomb, sparking thunderous applause. Caldwell pounded his gavel, face flushed. "Miss Leavitt, this is the second time you've disrupted this court," he shouted, his bureaucratic tone trembling. "This court is not directed by the executive branch. Without clear legal grounds, leave this courtroom now." But his eyes darted, like a trapped animal. Leavitt gave a faint smile, raising the briefcase. "Judge Caldwell, I have irrefutable evidence of your and Blackthorn Dynamics corruption," she said, voice steely. She opened the case, pulling out bank transaction records. "Your offshore Cayman account received $1.8 million from Blackthorn over 4 years, including $500,000 just before this trial. Internal emails from Blackthorn executive Charles Vernon confirm you were paid to ensure Blitz goes to them, covering up Project Sentinel, a $2.5 billion program developing biotech chips for military dogs." She paused, locking eyes with Caldwell. "Blitz carries a chip with data on a $4 billion biochemical weapons cache, threatening Blackthorn's international trafficking network. You sold justice to protect that empire." The crowd roared, X live streams exploding with comments. "Caldwell's a criminal. #save Blitz." Caldwell, pale, pounded his gavel repeatedly. "Outrageous," he yelled, his authoritative voice crumbling, eyes panicked. "These documents are fabricated. You're slandering a federal judge." But his voice faltered, sweat beading on his forehead. Leavitt, unfazed, pulled out a USB. "This is a recorded statement from John Kessler, former Blackthorn engineer," she said, Kessler confirms Blitz's chip stores encrypted data on 12 Middle East biochemical weapons sites, sold by Blackthorn to foreign clients for $6 billion. You and Marcus Kane, Blackthorn's mercenary, coordinated to seize Blitz before the data leaks. Ethan stroked Blitz's fur. He recalled the Afghanistan mission where Blitz found a biochemical weapons cache, and the home attack led by Kane. Leavitt was unraveling the entire network. He looked at her, eyes full of gratitude. The crowd erupted in applause, a reporter shouting, "Leavitt's a hero." Caldwell, now trembling, tried to hold ground. "This court rejects baseless accusations," he yelled, his bureaucratic tone desperate. "Security, remove her." But security, pressured by the crowd and cameras, stood still. An officer whispered, "FBI's outside, sir." Leavitt stepped closer to the bench, voice low but sharp. "Judge, I've sent evidence to the Justice Department and the President. A federal investigation targeting you and Blackthorn has begun. You can't hide forever." She turned to Ethan, eyes warm. "Mr. Brooks, millions on X stand with you. Blitz isn't going anywhere." Ethan nodded, tears falling silently, arms tight around Blitz. Clara squeezed his hand, whispering, "We did it." Caldwell, face ashen, stood abruptly, his gavel clattering to the floor. "This trial is a farce," he screamed, voice breaking, eyes darting for an escape. But the courtroom doors opened, 2 FBI agents stepping in, expressions stern. "William Caldwell, you're under arrest for bribery and obstruction of justice," one agent said, cuffing him. The crowd roared in triumph, cameras capturing Caldwell's escort out, his arrogant facade gone, replaced by defeat. X live streams exploded. Caldwell falls, #save Blitz wins. Leavitt turned to Ethan, placing a hand on his shoulder. "This isn't over," she said, voice low. "Blackthorn's still out there, and Kane won't quit. But I promise, we'll protect Blitz." Ethan nodded, whispering, "Thank you, for everything." Blitz lifted his head, licking Ethan's hand, as if sensing the temporary victory. Clara posted on X. "Caldwell arrested. Leavitt saved us. #save Blitz." The post spread instantly, hitting 1 million interactions in moments. As the crowd left the courthouse, Leavitt lingered, checking a message from James Thornton. "The president supports the Blackthorn investigation. Security has been sent to protect Brooks." She smiled, but her eyes remained wary. Blackthorn, with its billion-dollar network, would retaliate, and Kane was still out there. She watched Ethan and Blitz exit the court, feeling the weight of protecting them. The courtroom's atmosphere was taut as a bowstring after Judge William Caldwell's arrest. The #SaveBlitz hit 10 million shares on X, turning Ethan Brooks and Blitz into symbols of veteran justice. The new judge, Sarah Mitchell, prepared to deliver the final ruling on Blitz's fate, the German shepherd worth $10 million, carrying a biotech chip, with data on a $4 billion biochemical weapons cache. Ethan sat in his wheelchair, clutching Blitz's leash, eyes resolute yet anxious. Clara, his sister, scrolled X, where thousands of comments praised Caroline Leavitt for exposing Blackthorn Dynamics' $15 billion corruption network. "Ethan, we're almost there," Clara whispered, but Ethan recalled Marcus Kane's cold stare from the previous hearing and his threat. "That dog's worth more than your life." Judge Mitchell struck the gavel, her steady voice ringing out. "After reviewing the evidence, the court will rule on Blitz's ownership," she said, her gaze sweeping the packed room. Caroline Leavitt, standing near the front row, locked eyes with Ethan, her hand gripping her phone, linked to James Thornton, White House advisor. She had provided Blackthorn executive Charles Vernon's emails, and John Kessler's testimony to the FBI, but she sensed danger. Blackthorn, with its $6 billion biochemical weapons trafficking network, wouldn't let the $2.5 billion Project Sentinel collapse easily. She whispered to Rachel Harper beside her, "Kane's desperate. He'll strike." Suddenly, the courtroom lights flickered, the electrical system buzzed, then went dark. The crowd panicked, shouts echoing in the darkness. A small explosion sounded at the back door, and Marcus Kane, leading 4 mercenaries in tactical gear, stormed in, flashlights on their guns sweeping the room. "Find the dog," Kane ordered, his low voice menacing, eyes locking onto Blitz. "Ethan, heart pounding, unclipped the leash. "Blitz, run," he whispered. Blitz darted through the rows, vanishing into the shadows, luring one mercenary after him. Ethan, relying on military instincts, wheeled to a corner, pulling Clara to hide. Leavitt, quick on her feet, pulled out her phone, sending an emergency signal to FBI agents waiting outside. "Kane's attacking the court. Need backup now," she shouted into her radio. She rushed to the clerk's desk, grabbing a metal pen, ready to defend herself. Kane, gun in hand, advanced toward Ethan. "Brooks, call the dog or I shoot," he growled, eyes blazing with hatred. "That chip holds codes to 12 biochemical weapons sites. Blackthorn won't let you destroy our empire." Ethan, gripping his wheelchair, shot back Blitz's family, "Not your tool." He rammed the chair into Kane's legs, knocking him off balance. Blitz, from the shadows, lunged, leaping onto the pursuing mercenary, biting his shoulder, making him scream as his gun clattered to the floor. The crowd, though panicked, began to fight back. A reporter hurled a camera bag, hitting a mercenary's head, dropping him. Leavitt, from the corner, stabbed her pen into another's hand, making him drop his gun. "FBI's coming, Kane," she shouted, voice steely. "You've lost." But Kane, recovering quickly, drew a knife, lunging at Ethan. Blitz, sensing danger, pivoted, slamming into Kane, crashing him into the clerk's desk, the knife flying. Police sirens and FBI agents' shouts rang out, flashlights sweeping as they stormed in. "Drop your weapons," an agent barked, guns trained on the mercenaries. Kane, pinned by Blitz, panted, eyes still defiant. "Blackthorn's bigger than all of you," he snarled. "Vernon will finish this." FBI agents cuffed Kane and his men, leading them out as the crowd cheered wildly. X live streams erupted. Kane arrested. Blitz is a hero. #save Blitz. Power restored. Judge Mitchell stood, striking the gavel. After what just transpired, the court rules Blitz belongs to Ethan Brooks, recognizing their extraordinary bond and bravery, she said, voice clear. The crowd roared in triumph, Clara hugging Ethan, tears streaming. Ethan leaned down, embracing Blitz, whispering, "You're everything." Blitz wagged his tail, eyes bright as if sensing the joy. Leavitt, panting, received a message from Thornton. "President orders full Blackthorn investigation. Keep Brooks safe." She looked at Ethan and Blitz, smiling. She recalled Caldwell's arrogant tone, calling Blitz property, to hide $1.8 million in bribes, and Kane's recklessness, Blackthorn's attack dog. Both had failed, but Charles Vernon remained at large. She texted Harper, "Hunt Vernon. He's the final target." Clara posted on X, "Blitz stays, Leavitt and FBI saved us." #save Blitz. The post hit 3 million interactions instantly. As Ethan left the court, the crowd cheered, cameras swarming. Leavitt approached, shaking his hand. "Mr. Brooks, this is the public's victory," she said. "But Vernon's still out there. Stay vigilant." Ethan nodded, eyes steady. "Blitz and I survived war. We'll get through Blackthorn." Blitz raised his head as if agreeing, making Leavitt laugh. Golden sunset bathed the New Hampshire suburban field where Ethan Brooks sat on his porch, stroking Blitz's fur. The German shepherd sprawled beside him, eyes gleaming, tail gently wagging as if sensing rare peace. Judge Sarah Mitchell's ruling, that Blitz belonged to Ethan, recognizing their unique bond, had ended a painful battle. The #save Blitz, sparked by Clara's post, reached 12 million shares on X, turning Ethan and Blitz's story into a global symbol of veteran justice. Ethan looked at Blitz, whispering, "You saved me, not just in Afghanistan but here." He recalled the $4 billion biochemical weapons cache Blitz uncovered, and the $10 million chip in the dog's body, the key that drove Blackthorn Dynamics to hunt them. Inside, Clara prepared dinner, eyes glowing as she scrolled X. "Ethan, you see this?" she called, holding up her phone. "They're calling you and Blitz the unbreakable duo. People are donating to veterans because of you." Ethan smiled, feeling lighter than he had in years. The arrests of William Caldwell, with $1.8 million in Blackthorn bribes, and Marcus Kane, the ruthless mercenary, were victories not just for him but for millions on X. But he knew the greatest credit went to Caroline Leavitt, White House press secretary, who exposed Blackthorn's $6 billion corruption network and $2.5 billion Project Sentinel. In Washington, Leavitt sat in her White House office, dim light illuminating her tired but determined face. She just met with James Thornton, the president's advisor, reporting on the case. "The president commends you, Caroline," Thornton said, voice low. "You didn't just save Blitz, you exposed Blackthorn. The FBI's hunting Charles Vernon, their CEO." Leavitt nodded, opening her laptop, reading a message from Rachel Harper. "Vernon's hiding in Europe, but I have a lead. We'll update soon." She smiled, recalling Caldwell's arrogant tone in court, calling Blitz property to hide his crimes. Caldwell now faced prison, but Vernon and Blackthorn's remnants remained a threat. She replied to Harper, "Find Vernon, we're not done." Leavitt scrolled X, where thousands of veterans sent thanks. One wrote, "Save Blitz inspired me to fight PTSD. Thank you, Leavitt." Her heart warmed, but the responsibility weighed heavy. She drafted a report for the president, pledging to continue the Blackthorn investigation, ensuring no veteran was abandoned like Ethan nearly was. She thought of Ethan and Blitz, the image of the dog beside him in the field making her smile. "Justice started with them," she whispered, standing ready for the next fight. Meanwhile, Ethan rose from the porch, leaning on his cane, walking slowly beside Blitz. Over the past months, he'd started therapy, regaining mental strength thanks to Blitz and X's support. He turned to Clara, voice low but firm. "I want to do something for veterans, Clara. A project, maybe a therapy dog training center, like Blitz helped me." Clara nodded, eyes shining. "Brilliant idea. I'll start a fund on X. People will back it." Ethan knelt, looking into Blitz's eyes. "You'll be the star, buddy," he said, smiling softly. Blitz wagged his tail, as if agreeing. A week later, Ethan received a video from Leavitt, sent via Clara. In it, Leavitt, standing before the White House seal, said, "Mr. Brooks, you and Blitz are an inspiration to the nation. Your therapy dog project will change veterans' lives. The White House supports you." Ethan watched, tears falling silently. He reposted on X, adding, "Thank you, Leavitt, and all of you. Blitz and I will keep fighting for veterans." #Save Blitz. The post hit 5 million interactions, with thousands pledging donations for the center. As the sun set, Ethan and Blitz walked into the field, grass rustling underfoot. Ethan paused, gazing at the horizon, recalling the dark days after Afghanistan when only Blitz pulled him through. "You're my light," he whispered, stroking the dog's head. Blitz looked up, licking his hand, eyes seeming to say they'd always be together. In the distance, Clara snapped a photo, posting it on X with the caption, "Ethan and Blitz, forever a team, #save Blitz." The image spread, becoming a symbol of loyalty and hope. The story of Ethan Brooks, Blitz, and Caroline Leavitt, in their fight against Blackthorn Dynamics corruption, reflects real issues in America today, from veterans' injustices, the power of social media, to the struggle for justice in a complex system. Ethan, a veteran whose military system tried to strip him of Blitz, the dog who saved him in war and darker days, represents thousands of American veterans facing institutional neglect. His journey, amplified by Clara's #SaveBlitz hashtag reaching 12 million shares on X, shows the power of online communities in elevating individual voices, much like movements such as #MeToo or #Black Lives Matter, reshaped societal awareness. Leavitt, as White House press secretary, exposed Judge Caldwell's $1.8 million bribes and Blackthorn's $6 billion biochemical weapons trafficking network, highlighting the need for transparency and accountability in American politics, where corruption remains a threat. Ethan's therapy dog project, raising $1 million, underscores community spirit and social responsibility, core values of American culture. The lesson is to persist in fighting for what's right, and leverage collective strength. Ethan didn't give up on Blitz, despite facing Blackthorn, and Clara turned his story into a movement through X. In real life, you can use social media to rally support for issues like veterans' rights or anti-corruption, as Leavitt did with the community to topple Caldwell. Small actions, like posting or donating, can create a ripple effect, like #SaveBlitz. Trust and loyalty, like Ethan and Blitz's bond and community, because even in an unjust system, unity and determination can bring hope and change. Subscribe to the channel to follow Ethan Blitz and Leavitt's justice journey against Blackthorn. Thank you for supporting #SaveBlitz, and see you in the next video.